And at that time, made in Ghana shoes had that perception of being inferior. It then dawned on me that, oh wow, this has potential. When you start small and your products are good, you get the organic growth. I knew that I didn't want to work in the bank. So I did not actually sit down to plan that I want to go into shoemaking. It was an opportunity that I found and I tapped into it. People were working from home, weddings were banned. So yes, for about 6 months, we had stock sitting here. It's easier and cost effective for me to ship to London or New York than to ship to, say, Nairobi. We defied the statistic that startups fail within the first to 5 year period, and we are doing 13 years. I said to myself that I am burning the bridges. I don't want to go back. So it's either win or perish. It is better to try and fail than fail not to try, because it's just jobs. It's just jobs, creating jobs, building factories. Those are the things that would actually lift the youth out of unemployment situation.
You're not defined by where you come from,
yeah.
and I think that's a big message that I always want to tell people. Like
you have to be able to be uncomfortable, like be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
When you grow up in ends, you don't realize it when you're confident, but you have an audacity to do things that ordinarily most people wouldn't be willing to do.
Welcome back to the Takeover Experience. We've got a special guest in the building, and we're also doing a special location. We're doing it in Accra, Ghana, so I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today, Tonyi. How are you doing?
I'm good, Atu, and welcome to Ghana. I learned this is your first time in Ghana.
It is, yes, it is.
Awesome. Welcome to Accra.
Thank you.
The politicians used to say that is the gateway to Africa, but
okay,
I don't know.
Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I don't know if it still holds, but yes, welcome to Accra, Ghana.
Love that. So who is Tonyi?
Tonyi Senayah, a boy who was born in Kumasi, grew up in Kumasi, had my secondary education in Kumasi, and one of the best schools, secondary schools, I believe, in Ghana, Prempeh College. Went to the University of Ghana, read sociology, and at a point I also was involved in student activism. I became the president of our student union in my final years, and after school I did my national service, and then I zoomed into shoemaking. So yes, I have had an interesting background growing up. I have done a bit of pieces of everything, and then in 2010 I started the enterprise of making shoes, and the rest isn't history yet because we are still living it. So I run Horseman Shoes, founder and CEO of Horseman Shoes currently.
Amazing. Tell me a bit more about Kumasi. So you said that you were born there. What was it like growing up there?
Kumasi is the second largest city in Ghana, and it is predominantly a conservative. It used to be conservative in nature, but now it is opening up. It is known for commerce and craft. So our first president built a shoemaking factory in Kumasi, and as a result of that, we have a lot of shoemakers in Kumasi. And beyond shoemaking, we have a lot of people into dressmaking and other vocations like mechanic, So growing up in Kumasi, I grew up in a home where my dad he wasn't so strict, but he was the guy who would, after a long period of misbehaving, he will bring you in and remind you of all your sins and give you one spanking. So I have I have a bit of free time. So I used to roam a lot after school. I used to play soccer, did everything that young guys growing up did. So I had a bit of free time to experience and also build a lot of relationship and gather a lot of experiences and memories. So growing up in Kumasi was very fun.
Okay, amazing. What brought you to Accra? Why did you make that?
So after Prempeh College in 2001, I got enrolled in the University of Ghana here in Legon 2003, and that was the period where I came to live in Accra and didn't go back till I finished school. And after school I went back home to be with my dad for a while and did what we call the national service. And after national service was here in Accra, and just when my national service was about ending, I found the opportunity in shoemaking. So since then I've been shuttling between Accra and Kumasi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you found an opportunity in shoemaking. How did that come about? Was that through Kumasi or?
No, here in Accra, when I was doing my national service, there was a man who had a shop in where I lived here in Accra. So after work, I'll go sit with him and have conversations, And he was someone who has lived in Europe before, so he would tell me about his tales in Europe and how it didn't go well. And when he was coming back home, he had some few money to buy the machines. So I sat with him for about 3 or 4 months, and one day I just pulled an image of the internet and asked him if he could do it for me. He said yes. When I wore it to work, my friends liked it. They were amazed that a national service personnel, how I could afford that good-looking shoe. Yeah. I told them it was locally made. Those who knew where I lived came through to order a pair. But then I also had a friend who was working at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They were being paid very well. So when he saw it and he ordered a pair, his colleagues started calling me that here I know a man who makes shoes. So it then dawned on me that, oh wow, this has potential, And at that time, made in Ghana shoes had that perception of being inferior. But then I also asked myself, if these guys who could buy shoes anywhere calling me to order for locally made shoes, then it didn't matter to them where the shoes were coming from, provided it was of top quality and met their desired expectations. So that is how it started in 2009, actually. So I would take orders from them, go to my man, he will make it for me, go and sell to them until 2010, when I set up my workshop in Kumasi. Kumasi, because that's where I grew up. I called my dad to tell him that this is what I wanted to do. I'm sure he wasn't so clear in his mind that an university graduate, he want to go into shoe manufacturing, but he gave me all the necessary support. He even introduced me to a shoemaker who lived in the neighborhood, and I started from his premises. He gave me his premises to start from. So that is how come I entered into shoemaking, and I haven't looked back.
Wow. So why did you decide to go fully? Because obviously we all have like lots of ideas but we don't always pursue them. So what was that like burning spirit for you to say, okay, I'm just gonna definitely go into it?
Before I left the university, it was a period where banks were now coming into the Ghanaian space from Nigeria, so it was a bank craze at that time. All the banks at the time we left school had set tents and were organizing aptitude tests, recruiting fresh university graduates. I knew that I didn't want to work in the bank, so for that I was very sure, even though if you took 8 out of 10 students, they wanted to go into the bank because they were paying well, What I wanted to do was to work with an NGO because I loved people development. I didn't have the slightest of idea it would start with shoemaking. But I also had an idea of doing tailoring because my friends who worked in the bank didn't have time then. So I would go to the second-hand goods market, get a shirt, go and look for a tailor to alterate it to be slim fitting for me. So anytime we met at functions, they would ask, where did you get this? I want some. So it dawned on me that, well, if I have a tailor, I could go around these guys. I could go to them in their offices, tailor measure them and do slim fitting suits for them. So that was a vague idea that I had. So when the shoes idea came and I saw the opportunity, I said, okay, good. Then let me start with the shoes. So I did not actually sit down to plan that I want to go into shoemaking. It was an opportunity that I found and I tapped into it.
And all the shoes currently right now, they're still all handmade?
Yes, they are still
all handmade, and they're all handmade.
All handmade shoes in Kumasi.
Wow. So why did you then decide, okay, I'm going to have a shop in Accra if you're busy? Kumasi?
Accra is the capital. And this is where I started selling to my friends, and like I said, Kumasi is the hub of shoemaking. So it made sense to have a setup there because we had skilled labor, because we had raw materials availability, and because I had a space that I wasn't going to pay for. So I set up in Kumasi because of all these factors. And Accra was where the market was, because the capital is the capital. And this is where I had tested the idea with my friends, their friends and their friends. So it made sense that I started from Accra to sell here. So we make the shoes and then we courier them to Accra.
Great, amazing. So how much did it initially cost you to set up the shop, if you remember?
I cannot put the figures together, but it wasn't very expensive, and that is the beauty of starting small, So the idea came to set up a shop when I gave some pieces of leather to a shoemaker in Kumasi. He promised me to deliver in 2 weeks, but it took about 2 months. Then he had to explain that he didn't have all the equipment to work on it, so he had to go to town to finish up some of the jobs. So I asked him if we wanted to produce under one shed, what will it take? So he gave me the list of machinery. I went to town to ask for prices, and most of them were locally manufactured. So yes, it wasn't very expensive. I remember I took money from my dad, my late dad, and then my sister to set up the shop. I started with the basics, the basic of machinery. So in today's in dollar term, maybe like $200 or
Really?
or even less. Yes.
That's quite cheap.
Yes, it was cheap then. Yes.
Wow. And if you were to start again today, would it be as cheap?
Not really. With my experience and knowing the level to start from, then of course I will need heavy investment in terms of machinery and even bigger space and technology and all that. But 13 years ago, I had not been in the industry before. I was just a startup, trying to test the market and see how it will go for me. So I started with the basic and the simplest of tools and machinery.
Yeah. How did you build your clientele? How did that go for you? Because obviously you're starting from, like you said, you had no experience.
Yes.
Obviously you were selling to your friends, PwC, but how did you build that over the long term? Yeah,
so again, when you start small, and your products are good, you get the organic growth, So my initial breakthrough in terms of reaching out to other people was through my friends, word of mouth, which I think is the most powerful tool of marketing even till today. So yes, I relied a lot on my friends, and I didn't even ask them to. When they got their pairs and they realized the shoes were that good, they recommended me to other people. So gradually I started growing beyond my friends. And then not long before that, the advent of social media. Until today, social media has become one of our most powerful medium of reaching out to new people. So yes, it was word of mouth and through social media then. And then after 4 years, there was excitement around my business because university graduate doing shoes, it was a bit of it was unheard of, So I began getting a lot of attention from the media, granting interviews, telling my story. And through that, a lot of people also got to hear about me. Then I also participated a lot in competitions that put the name out there. Okay. And how have you found doing business in Ghana? I know you haven't done it internationally anyway, but how are you finding that? It's a mix of everything, but generally it's tough, because we came from a point where Ghanaian product had this perception that they were of poor quality. So we had to produce products that will speak for itself, that look, we set ourselves apart from the pack, So yes, that period was a bit difficult, telling Ghanaians that this were made in Ghana for them to accept you. And generally the business environment is difficult. Working with government agencies like the Registrar General, it wasn't easy. And then the tax regime. Till today, I think that finding alternative locally or buying from suppliers who import is much cheaper, or is it's most preferred than to source outside because the import duties and the taxes. So generally the Ghanaian terrain is very difficult, but over the years governments have tried to build the infrastructure in terms of stable electricity and road networks to travel from one city to the other, and we have better internet services compared to previous years. So e-commerce is also on the increase now, and that was really tested when COVID came. How did that have an impact on you? Did it have any? Well, for us, our impact was really felt because shoes are meant for occasions like going to work, weddings, and going for events. So for about 6 months, all these activities were not happening. People were working from home. Weddings were banned and limited to only 25 people. So yes, for about 6 months we had stock sitting here, but during the last quarter we had to sell or else we go out of business. So yes, we devised all mechanisms and deployed all the marketing tactics that we knew to offload our stock. And from October to December we cleared the stock, and yes, all of a sudden business became very good.
That's amazing. I remember when we were having our conversation offline, you have very famous clientele. How did you get those clientele? Because again, like you were saying, there's a bit of a perception, obviously. So breaking down that perception is amazing. How did you manage to do that?
Through my personal network, and most importantly through people who had bought from us and shared their testimony. So we have people walking here and would argue with us that no, these shoes are not made in Ghana, and so yes, we have a very rich clientele, from politics to top media personalities to corporate executives to young professionals and ordinary Ghanaian. So basically it's through recommendations and people who have experienced the brand. They speak well of us to other people.
And you were also telling me as well offline that you are selling more online versus offline. How did that come about?
I think it has come with a period of trust, because especially there are a lot of businesses that are online to scam people. So for us, when a customer who doesn't know our shop, where the shop is located, has never interacted with us before, will get in touch for the first time, pick a shoe, we have it, and make payment before delivery, it tells us that people have confidence in the brand. Probably they have done their research to know that Horseman is different from the other online shops that scam people. And we also do a bit of online activations to also acquire new customers. So basically it is an endorsement that we've been around for a very long time, and it's also a vote of confidence that the general public trust the brand, that they don't necessarily have to come to the physical shop to have a feel of the product before committing to buy.
What are some of those activations that you do? Because you have mentioned it a few times in this conversation that you do.
We go out there to
tell us a secret.
we go out there to participate in trade shows, and when people come in here and they have good experience, they on their own, without asking, share. So, and I really even prefer that when people
Hold on, no, don't worry. You can. I won't be.
Okay, so we actually like it when people decide to become ambassadors on their own. So those little things go a long way to feed into building the brand and the brand perception. So over the years we have had quite a number of trade shows where people who matter, where all our target market come to even see the shoes for the first time. They may not necessarily buy, but they have the first interaction, and whenever they are ready to buy, they give us a call or they walk in here. So yes, a bit of everything that has really brought us this far.
So you feel like putting yourself out there up front, especially in these trade shows, legitimizes what you're doing.
Exactly.
Like you were saying, like there's a lot of scam shops. Can you tell me a bit about these scam shops? Because I don't understand. I mean, I do understand.
Okay.
In terms of
So
how can someone scam you with shoes?
I see a lot of people share their experiences online, especially on IG and Facebook. They see a shop selling a product or a service. So what normally happens is you have to make prepayment before it is delivered. So they make payments and the items never get delivered. The number that you make payment to, the number that you interacted with initially, you try calling them again and it's off. So you've been scammed.
Okay. So that's what you mean. Okay, I understand. That happens a lot in the UK as well.
Oh, okay, I see.
Scam through eBay, Amazon. You can scam through anything.
So yes, it happens a lot here.
Okay, that's interesting. Another thing we were talking about was shipping internationally, right? So you ship internationally as well.
Yes, we
were talking about shipping across Africa. That some parts are easier to ship than others. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So one of our biggest challenges in terms of servicing the international market is logistics, and it is even more difficult doing business within the African region. So it's easier and cost effective for me to ship to London or New York than to ship to, say, Nairobi, because DHL goes directly to those places, but DHL to Nairobi may even be expensive than shipping to UK or shipping to New York. That is the biggest challenge that we face here, and we are hoping that with the free trade coming in to facilitate the smooth processes of businesses, they would take into consideration the kind of challenges that we have doing business amongst ourselves.
Yeah. What do you think would help with that? Because you said that. Is that cheaper? Is it better logistics, better roads? Is it?
Yes, roads, and I think that transportation system. Because only few countries that operate the airlines that I can fly here directly to their cities. So, for instance, if I am going to Zambia, I cannot fly directly to Zambia. I either go through Ethiopia, Nairobi, or if Rwanda is still there, Kigali. So I had a conversation with one of the courier companies, and they explained the challenges that if we are sending packages from Accra to other cities without direct flight, it gets mixed up because they have to also transit. So in transferring the products, it may get missing, it may get damaged, so that is the challenges that we face when we are doing business within the sub-region. So I'm hoping that African leaders, in all their considerations and deliberations in making free trade work in Africa, they will also look at the logistics and the transportation system that can make movement of goods and services free.
Amazing. So do you consider yourself successful? I would consider you successful, but do you consider yourself successful?
Well, it depends on the indices that you are using, the success indices. In terms of running a business or being in the space this long, I think that we defied the statistic that startups fail within the first to 5 year period, so, and we are doing 13 years. After 13 years, I feel that there is more that we could have achieved. But looking back and looking at my contemporaries, the people that I started with, business that were around the period that I started, they are no more. So yes, within me, I look within me and have a modicum of pride that, well, I think that, yes, it's been a worthwhile journey that we have achieved some successes. So yes, in terms of longevity and also, yes, providing employment for some few young people, yes, it gives me some sort of satisfaction that my running around is putting food on the table of some young people.
What do you think has made you successful though? What habits have you developed? Because you talked about your peers. Why have you been able to?
Interesting question. It will be a number of factors, but I also think that I had a drive, and I said to myself that I am burning the bridges. I don't want to go back. So it's either win or perish. I think it was Churchill who said that they went for a war, and when they landed on the shore, they bent their boots that they are not going back. They have to conquer the enemy. So I had that mentality, and I also think that I also lend myself to people to give me the necessary support, not necessarily financially, but at a point you realize that you don't have everything it takes to run a business. So you may be lacking in marketing. You look through your network and ask, who can help me achieve this? You may be lacking in financing or accounting. So I will look through my network and call on my friends who are good at it to give me help. So yes, I have really tapped into my resources in terms of friends who would lend me their expertise and skills. And also, I was also fortunate to build a team that bought into the vision and decided to come along on the journey with me. 13 years I have had craftsmen that I started with who are still with me. Along the line, you get some bad people who would burn your fingers and teach you the lesson, but you dust it off and you soldier on. So it's been bits and pieces of everything. And also, yes, I have had supportive family. My friends, my wife who is taking care of the kids far away, because I also have friends who have to balance between being a dad, a husband, and also work, but I can afford to stay long hours because I have that freedom. So yes, I have been lucky to have the support system, and I tapped into the support system, and they didn't say no.
Yeah, amazing. I'm wondering, as you're telling me all this, because you've been in business for such a long time, like, what's the drive for, doing all of this? I'm trying to understand where it comes from. You came from Kumasi, now you're in Accra, you're doing well, you're looking to do this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Where does the drive come from?
Well, as part of our values, we say legacy. By legacy, we mean that we want to build a business that will live after the founder. I was in some business class and the question was asked, how many Ghanaian businesses have lived after the founder? We struggled to mention names, so I want to do this for a very long time, that one day if Tonyi Senayah is not there, Horseman will live. When I go to the Fifth Avenue in New York and I see businesses since 1876, it gives me that inspiration that, wow, this business was established in 1876. So I can imagine the number of generations that has worked on that business. So building the legacy is one of my motivations. And my vision also is to build the biggest leather product manufacturer in Africa in terms of brand preference and employment. And I am very key on employment because a lot of people in the space, the artisans, these are guys who, most of them, they didn't have formal education. They got terminated at a point, and they did not go into shoemaking because they loved it or because they found an opportunity. It's because they couldn't further their education. Well, if you couldn't make the grades, then go and learn shoemaking, go and learn mechanic, go and learn how to sew. Yeah. I want to change that perception. I want to create an avenue for young people to come and work in an environment where they will feel fulfilled, So that also gives me a lot of drive. I want to see young people do well because of the association or because they work with Horseman shoes.
Amazing. I love that, and I think with your drive, I feel like it could definitely go far. Definitely can see you, getting there. You just have to keep going. Keep going. Yeah. There's going to be ups and downs, like we had the downs of COVID. Mm-hmm. But as you said, you're trying to build structures in place to get you to a place where it can run without you. Because I think that's the most important part.
That's one way we can achieve the legacy, our value of building a legacy. I want to build a business that when I am out of the equation, the business will still run.
Yeah. So in terms of if anybody, in terms of entrepreneurs, because I think that's definitely a way for people to build wealth. I guess what would your advice be to somebody who wants to start a business in Ghana? What would be your key advice for them?
There's one thing that I have kept saying for the past years, that I have met a lot of people who have ideas, but what keeps them from doing what they have in mind is the fear of failure. People think that they will fail and they will be judged, but I tell them that, look, if you fail, and so what? It is better to try and fail than fail not to try, because then you'll be living with the regret, if I had. So I tell people, whatever idea that you have, at least give it a shot. If it fails, you take the lessons. And I spoke to one business person who said that when you start a business, pray that the failure comes early, because at all cost you have some failures, and from that failures we take the learnings. So whatever idea that you have, just give it a shot. Give it a shot. Whatever it takes, give it a shot, and know in your heart that at least I gave it a shot and it failed, rather than thinking that if I had done this I would have. No, never be afraid to fail.
Yeah. So for Ghanaians that are, international in the UK, US and other countries in the world, and they wanted to move back to Ghana, what would your advice be to them?
Oops, this is a very interesting question, especially at this time when there are a lot of people seeking to leave the country. But if they want to come for business, that I can tell them that there are a lot of opportunities here in Ghana. But the most important thing is getting people that are very trustworthy, that you can work with, because most of the times the stories that we hear from our people living abroad is the experience with having local partners is that they get their fingers burned. So for me, the most important thing is if you find an opportunity here in Ghana and you want to come and exploit, your critical your critical resource should be trusted, getting trusted people who would be committed to the project and be truthful to you.
Okay, I love that. And obviously in the UK we have cost of living crisis happening there. We have inflation having impact there as well. What's been the impact in Ghana for you, personally, and then for your business?
I'm sure Ghanaians would they be happy? No, it will be more, you are lending credence to what our government has been telling us, that it's a global crisis that is happening, because cost of living in Ghana has really increased, and inflation, cost of doing business, utility, everything has become very expensive. And we were told that it's as a result of the COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war. So that was the refrain that was being sung. That has been sung for the past 3 years. So if we hear people living outside Ghana also say the same thing, then I think that then it's a global crisis. But for here, we are really feeling the heat, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
We are in difficult times here in Ghana.
Yeah. One of the things that when I go to Nigeria, whenever I see, obviously there's poverty in the UK, I just see this huge gap in poverty gap, and I'm always thinking, okay, how can we get more people out of poverty? So what do you think is one of the ways that we can get more people out of poverty in Ghana? Like, what could help that?
Creating jobs. I mean, I can't think of anything else than to create jobs. This current government had a policy where he said that they will build in every district. They are going to build one factory, and I think the thinking behind that was to create jobs, so that people even don't travel to Accra to be jammed here in the capital city. It's just jobs. It's just jobs, creating jobs, building factories, and taking our agriculture more seriously, and also investing in what we call the technical and vocational education. Those are the things that would actually lift the youth out of unemployment situation. It's just creating jobs.
Okay. I love that. So what do you have planned next for yourself?
We are seeking to expand our product line. Last year, 2022, we rebranded from Horseman shoes to simply Horseman.
Okay.
It's to make room for our next line of product lines, like leather bags, leather wallets, leather pouches, leather books, all the leather belts. So we want to do a full range of leather products, and so Horseman shoes was limiting us to only shoes. Now the brand is Horseman, so we are working on other products that we hope to launch before Christmas.
Okay. Amazing. Where can people find you? They want to learn more.
Where could people find us? We have a website, horsemanshoes.com. We are heavily present on social media. So on Instagram, we are Horseman since 2010.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook, we are just Horseman. Yeah. And if you're having any difficulty, just Google Horseman, and it will take you to our various outlets.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tonyi. It's been great having this conversation, because I feel like I said to you before, like, to be able to have the drive to, go not only learn shoemaking, that's difficult, but to be able to be in business for like almost over a decade is no easy feat, especially in an area where like you're not getting that financing. You have to use your resources from like friends and family, and you're having to also upskill yourself at the same time whilst also maintaining business. It's not easy by any stretch of imagination. So amazing. It's amazing what you've done. So congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, like the horse, we will keep running.
Is that like you're saying?
So Horseman is an inspiration I got from a preacher, one of the famous preachers in Ghana called Istud Anaba. So he was preaching and asking today's prophets how they could compare to the prophets of old, like Ezekiel and Isaiah. So I asked myself that if I ask young people, young professionals, who they want to be like, they will mention people who have achieved in society. So those who have achieved are the horsemen. But if you want to be like them, then we must have a lot of determination. We must have a lot of stamina like the horse. We must complete our race. And life itself is one big race. So you need a horseman shoes to run the race. Yeah. So Horseman, we say for places going people.
Amazing, amazing. I was going to ask you for final words, but I mean, that could be your final words.
Yeah, so Horseman for places going people. I mean, we have to run the race of life, and we have to complete that race. We must have a lot of stamina, so we need Horseman shoes for the race of life.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tonyi.
Thank you, Ato.
For taking the time to speak to me today. Thank you, watchers and listeners, for tuning in to this episode of Take Away Experience, and we'll see you next week.